Every major American city hides an invisible map of power. This map doesn't appear online and no tourist ever sees it, yet it quietly controls streets, money, and entire neighborhoods through underground networks operating in the shadows. What appears to be normal city life often hides a much larger underground economy. Illegal businesses, secret deals, until gangs begin controlling not just streets, but entire local economies. Criminal organizations divide cities into territories. These borders are invisible to normal citizens but extremely real to the people controlling them. Each block belongs to someone, and crossing those invisible lines without permission can trigger conflicts that reshape entire neighborhoods. Most powerful gangs operate like corporations. At the top sits a leader directing strategy. Beneath him are lieutenants managing territories. This organized structure allows the network to survive even when individual members disappear. Supply routes keep these underground networks alive. Hidden transportation systems move illegal products across highways, storage units, and each explains the gang's strings. Some local businesses find themselves trapped inside this system. Owners may feel pressure to cooperate with criminal networks simply to avoid trouble. Over time, entire neighborhoods become financially connected to these underground organizations. Communication inside these networks is carefully controlled. Members rely on coded language, disposable phones, and trusted contacts. These methods allow information to move quickly while leaving very little trace for investigators trying to understand the system. Authorities constantly attempt to disrupt these networks, but organized groups adapt quickly. Leadership changes, operations relocate, and new methods of crime systems operating even under intense pressure. Authorities constantly attempt to disrupt these networks, but organized groups adapt quickly. Leadership changes, operations relocate, and new methods of crime systems operating even under intense pressure. From street level, everything appears random, but from above, the pattern becomes clear. Organized crime creates interconnected systems controlling territory, influence, and financial movement across entire cities. Understanding these hidden systems reveals the true structure of modern street crime. Beneath all those systems disappear, the hidden map of organized crime will continue shaping urban life. As the city wakes up, millions of people start their normal routines, commuting to work, opening businesses, walking through neighborhoods. But behind the scene, what happens on these streets way? Control over a city rarely happens through chaos. Instead, it develops slowly through influence. Small groups build connections, expand territories, and establish systems that allow them to monitor and influence activity across entire neighborhoods. One of the most powerful tools inside organized networks is communication. Messages travel through trusted contacts, coded language, and carefully controlled channels. These methods allow groups to coordinate activities across large areas without attracting attention. Money moves quietly through many layers of the city. Local businesses, hidden partnerships, and underground exchanges create financial channels that strengthen the influence of criminal networks over time. As these networks expand, they begin connecting multiple neighborhoods together. What once started as small street groups gradually transforms into larger organized systems operating across entire cities. Over time, these hidden systems grow more complex. Layers of communication, influence, and financial movement connect together like a web stretching across the city. From above, the invisible map becomes clear. Lines of influence stretch across neighborhoods, linking people, places, and systems into one hidden structure operating within the city. And this is the reality of many modern cities. Beneath everyday life, hidden systems of influence quietly shape power, territory, and control. Yet it can see this around that. For many residents, life continues normally without realizing how much unseen influence surrounds them. Beneath the surface of daily routines, powerful underground structures quietly shape the balance of power across entire communities. When investigators finally start mapping these networks, the scale can be surprising. What seemed like isolated incidents often turns out to be part of a much larger interconnected system. Many underground networks don't begin inside the city. Their roots often stretch far beyond it. Ports, highways, and transportation hubs quietly connect urban streets to larger systems moving goods, money, and information across regions. Every major route into the city becomes part of a larger system. Transportation corridors allow resources and information to move quickly between different neighborhoods and regions. Large storage areas inside industrial zones often play important roles in hidden urban systems. Quiet buildings and warehouses can become meeting points where activities are organized away from public attention. Inside dense neighborhoods, communication moves quickly between trusted contacts. Information spreads through small groups, allowing networks to stay informed about changes happening across the city. Local economies often become indirectly connected to larger systems of influence. Small transactions and business activities slowly build financial channels that strengthen underground networks operating behind everyday life. As connections grow, the structure of the network becomes more complex. Multiple districts link together through communication and financial channels, creating systems that extend far beyond a single street or neighborhood. Over time, these systems become deeply woven into the fabric of the city. Layers of influence form quietly, shaping how power moves across streets and communities. When investigators analyze urban patterns from above, the connections begin to reveal themselves. Individual locations link together into a much larger structure operating across the entire city. From this perspective, the city becomes a network of interconnected zones. Streets, buildings, and districts all form part of a larger system influencing activity across the region. And as another day begins, most residents continue their routines without noticing the invisible structures shaping the city around them. Yet, those systems empower urban environments. Power inside a city does not only move through streets, it also moves through financial systems. Large amounts of money quietly pass between businesses, forming complex financial patterns that can hide the true origin of certain activities. Highways become major arteries connecting different parts of the city. Through these routes, information, people, and resources move quickly between neighborhoods, strengthening the network's ability to adapt and expand. Financial systems create layers that make tracking activity extremely difficult. Small transactions spread across many places can gradually build much larger patterns that remain almost invisible at street level. In busy commercial areas, thousands of transactions happen every day. Among these normal exchanges, hidden financial movements can quietly blend into the background, making certain activities nearly impossible to detect without detailed investigation. Influence rarely stays inside one neighborhood. Over time, connections spread outward into surrounding communities, linking multiple districts into larger systems of cooperation and communication. When these connections are viewed together, the scale of the structure becomes clearer. Multiple systems overlap and interact, forming a web of influence stretching across the city. Influence rarely stays inside one neighborhood. Over time, connections spread outward into surrounding communities, linking multiple districts into larger systems of cooperation and communication. Even quiet neighborhoods can become part of these larger patterns. Small local connections allow networks to expand slowly without drawing attention from the outside world. Even quiet neighborhoods can become part of these larger patterns. Small local connections allow networks to expand slowly without drawing attention from the outside world. Even quiet neighborhoods can become part of these larger patterns. Small local connections allow networks to expand slowly without drawing attention from the outside world. Over time, these systems create a hidden structure operating alongside normal city life. From the outside, everything appears ordinary, but underneath, a complex network continues moving. At sunset, the city appears peaceful again. Lights turn on, traffic slows, and daily routines continue. Yet beneath that calm surface, hidden systems remain active, quietly shaping how influence moves through the city. When the city grows quieter at night, different patterns begin to appear. Meetings, movements, and decisions often happen away from crowded streets. Parks, rooftops, and places where plans are discussed and information quietly changes hands. When investigators analyze the entire metropolitan area, connections begin to appear between places that once seemed unrelated. Streets, businesses, and transportation routes slowly reveal a much larger pattern. From elevated viewpoints, the city becomes easier to observe. Movement between districts, changing traffic patterns, and activity across neighborhoods reveal subtle clues about how influence spreads from one area to another. Late-night activity often reveals a different side of the city. While most people are heading home, others remain active, quietly coordinating actions across multiple locations. Late-night activity often reveals a different side of the city. While most people are heading home, others remain active, quietly coordinating actions across multiple locations. Large cities function like complex systems. Every district interacts with others through movement, communication, and economic activity. When hidden networks begin connecting those systems together, influence does not always appear dramatic. Sometimes it spreads quietly through relationships, information sharing, and small agreements between individuals across communities. Transportation routes play an important role in connecting different parts of the city. Highways and main roads allow movement between districts, strengthening the connections between locations that might otherwise remain isolated. Industrial areas often become quiet hubs where planning and coordination can occur away from crowded public spaces. Their large buildings and low nighttime activity make them ideal locations for organizing complex operations. When these connections are mapped together, the city begins to look like a living network. Every district becomes a node connected through movement, communication, and influence. The further the perspective expands, the clearer the pattern becomes. Local activity slowly links together into a much larger structure covering the entire metropolitan region. As another day begins, the city returns to its familiar rhythm. Offices open, traffic builds, and daily life continues. Yet beneath that routine, the hidden systems remain in motion. Morning traffic fills the streets again, and millions of people begin another normal day. Yet beneath the routine, hidden patterns continue forming across the city. Movement between districts. Large cities function through constant exchange. Money, services, and communication flow between people and organizations every hour. Within this activity, hidden networks quietly blend into the background, moving alongside normal economic systems. Even calm residential communities become part of the wider urban system. Information, influence, and activity gradually spread outward from central districts, connecting distant neighborhoods to the larger structure shaping the city. Busy commercial areas generate thousands of transactions each day. Among these legitimate exchanges, complex financial patterns can quietly emerge, connecting multiple districts together in ways that remain difficult to detect. Highways and transportation corridors act as powerful connectors. They allow rapid movement between districts and create pathways linking distant communities into one shared system of activity. When the city is viewed as a whole, the scale of its hidden connections becomes clearer. Districts, neighborhoods, and transportation routes combine to form a complex web of movement and influence. These networks rarely appear suddenly. Instead, they develop gradually through years of small decisions, connections, and shared interests that quietly expand across the city. When investigators finally begin mapping these relationships, the results often reveal systems far larger than expected. As the sun sets again, the city appears calm and ordinary. Lights glow in windows. Their life is in them, a life from society. What once appeared as separate events across different neighborhoods slowly forms one connected structure. Streets, businesses, and communities become part of a larger pattern influencing activity throughout the city. As night returns to the city, the rhythm of activity changes again. Lights appear across thousands of windows, traffic patterns shift, and communication flows quietly through different districts. Hidden systems continue operating behind the scenes. From this height, the city appears peaceful, yet countless unseen interactions continue beneath the surface. Messages travel between contacts, plans evolve, and decisions shape the direction of influence across different neighborhoods. Nightlife districts often reveal how dynamic a city truly is. Restaurants, clubs, and busy streets create constant movement, and within that activity, hidden coordination can quietly continue. Nightlife districts reveal a city's dynamic nature. Restaurants, clubs, and busy streets create constant movement, where hidden coordination quietly continues. Even in quiet neighborhoods, the wider system remains connected. Information and activity continue moving through trusted contacts across the city. When viewed together, these connections form an intricate network spanning the entire metropolitan area. Districts that appear separate on the surface are actually part of a much larger structure shaping activity throughout the city. The wider the perspective becomes, the clearer the hidden structure appears. Streets, businesses, and transportation routes combine into one interconnected system, influencing the movement of people and resources. What once seemed like isolated activity across different neighborhoods now reveals itself as a coordinated pattern operating quietly across the entire urban landscape. What once seemed like isolated activity across different neighborhoods now reveals itself as a coordinated pattern operating quietly across the entire urban landscape. The wider the perspective becomes, the clearer the hidden structure appears. Streets, businesses, and transportation routes combine into one interconnected system, influencing the movement of people and resources. When viewed together, these connections form an intricate network spanning the entire metropolitan area. Districts that appear separate on the surface are actually part of a much larger structure shaping activity throughout the city. What once seemed like isolated activity across different neighborhoods now reveals itself as a coordinated pattern operating quietly across the entire urban landscape. From this final perspective, the city transforms into a living system. Millions of people, thousands of streets, and countless connections combine into one complex structure constantly evolving. As dawn approaches, the city prepares for another day of movement and activity. Life continues, routines begin again, and the invisible structures remain quietly present beneath the surface. Most people will never notice the deeper systems shaping the places they live. Streets appear ordinary, neighborhoods seem peaceful, and yet beneath the surface, powerful connections continue influencing how the city evolves. Cities are more than buildings and streets. They are complex networks of movement, influence, and connections that constitute or to others stay hidden in the background, shaping the world around us.